Hundreds of women and children come here to pray every day. Then the congregation gathers in a large circle. The teacher today is Amira. She says she's teaching from a book by Sheikh Fazan, a senior member of the official Saudi religious establishment.
This is very, very good book.
She starts with a revision session on what should happen to people who break Islamic laws, including Muslims who convert to another faith.
But he's Muslim and he get out of Islam. He doesn't want any more. What are we going to do? Kill. Kill.
Comes out of
Qatl. Kill. You have to kill. You understand? We're talking about Islam. Yeah?
It's the same for adulterers.
For the had the zina, what is the law of this?
stoning.
Until he died. And the one who is not married, he never dies. Now, with 100 lash.
The worshippers, many of whom are children or teenagers, are being taught the Saudi Arabian interpretation of Sharia law from official Saudi books. The teachings include the brutal killings of homosexuals and women who act like men.
If someone makes themselves like a man, a woman like a man, you understand this, the punishment is kill. Kill them from the highest place. I'm not going to be like animals, living like animals. Or to be like the people of Lut, we have to take the had is to kill them.
This causes a brief debate among the young students. One girl says they should also be stoned.
With the punishment of, throw them from the highest point and then stone them.
Another student says the punishment is approved by the Quran.
Then we reduced him to the lowest of the low. So if you throw someone up a mountain, you are reducing him to the lowest of the low because they're falling off from a high place.
In fact, punishments like throwing homosexuals from a mountain are nowhere mentioned in the Quran. It's a hardline interpretation taught in Saudi Arabia. Amira condemns terrorism and says these punishments will only be carried out in a future Islamic state under a Muslim leader, not in present-day Britain.
حتى ما نقول احنا راح نبدا نقتل في الناس لا هذا لازم يكون امير مسلمين ولما جيش المسلمين يقوى ويكونوا يحاربوا حتى الاسلام كله يعمر.
This fundamentalist interpretation of Islam is being taught in Britain's most important and supposedly moderate mosque. Our reporter finds out where Amira has been trained. She says she's just finished 3 years of study at Medina Mosque in Saudi Arabia. It's the second most holy mosque in Islam, and its imams teach Muslims an interpretation of the faith known to some as Wahhabism. Amira teaches what she says is an important principle in Islam. A Muslim must hate as well as love.
It's not enough that you worship Allah, we have to also, in our heart, hate what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, be pleased to Allah, and love what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
She says this principle relates to living with non-Muslims.
Hate what displeases to Allah, especially when living with this country that's non-Muslim.
And asks a worshipper to read out a verse from the Quran,
Stand up and raise please. Stand up.
which she says is about relations between Muslims and non-Muslims.
Verily, we are free from you, and whatever you worship besides Allah, we have rejected you, and there has appeared between us and you hostility and hatred forever until you believe in Allah alone.
Amira says it means Muslims must separate from non-Muslims.
You understand, sister? Islam is the tabarruk min al-shirk. Min al-shirk wa ahli, the people who do the shirk. Any questions?
After the lesson, our reporter approaches Amira to ask her to clarify her teaching.
When we talked about the love and enmity for Allah, how do we apply that? How as a Muslim do I apply that? Yeah.
Muslims should show good manners to non-Muslims and can try to convert them to Islam, but cannot befriend them. She uses the Arabic term kafir, meaning disbeliever or infidel.
To be good friends, give them all about our secret, understand? You have to be friends with them. That is not allowed. Because wala is only to Muslim, not to the kafir.
Amira says she's learned this doctrine of separatism in Saudi Arabia, whose clerics preach a brand of Islam often called Wahhabism. Our reporter is filming as some of the interfaith groups are brought into the women's area.
So this is what we have in our heart. It's just
On this occasion, Amira meets them.
God, let me know how to reach you, the way, the right way.
On another occasion, a group of non-Muslims is invited to sit down with the circle. The preacher promotes Islam to them, but talks politely about other religions too.
And the message, the Quran, came to confirm the truth in the previous scriptures.
But as soon as the interfaith group leaves, the same preacher's tone changes completely. She now says Christian teachings are vile.
And we feel nothing sometimes going past the church. We don't look at it in disgust and think, subhanAllah, what are these people doing in there? What they say with their tongues is so vile and disgusting. It's an abomination.
Like the other preachers in the circle, she says she's teaching from the works of the Saudi scholars. In this case, Sheikh bin Baz, a former Grand Mufti of the kingdom. The teachings include that a Muslim cannot be tolerant of other religions.
He shouldn't just be indifferent and say things like, you go to church, I go to the mosque, let's all stay together like one big happy family and all be united as humanity. This is false, this does not work, this concept is a lie, it's fake, and it's a farce.
The circle preaches for 8 hours a day on Saturdays and Sundays. Any woman who goes there to pray is likely to hear their preaching. Our reporter is told the circle was set up years ago by Amira, but while she's been in Saudi Arabia, it's been run by this woman, Salim. She too preaches Saudi teachings. She says she's met a Muslim woman who is too friendly to non-Muslims.
When she sees a kafir woman, big smile. When she turns around, she sees me there. Yeah. It's part of Islam, of the aqeedah, of the correct belief, that you love those who love Allah, and that you hate those who hate Allah. Okay?
Although the preachers say Muslims should act well with non-Muslims, in private they were often disparaging about their ways and beliefs. In 2 months at the mosque, we only recorded one incident of dissent. A worshipper sitting in the audience objects to the teachings on disbelievers, saying Islam encourages Muslims to mix with others.
There is an ayah of the Quran says, we made of you peoples, different shu'ub, to know one another. And if you communicate with the other and you show the beauty of Islam, then, then maybe people could come into Islam.
The preacher qualifies her statements a little.
It doesn't mean that we should oppress them. It doesn't mean that we don't give the right. It doesn't mean that we don't help them. Okay?
But then returns to the main theme.
But it doesn't mean as well that we should befriend them.
Regent's Park Mosque was set up 60 years ago to represent British Muslims to the government. It says its role is to help Muslims integrate into British society. The Women's Circle does preach against terrorism and doesn't incite Muslims to break British laws. But far from preaching integration, Salim says Muslims cannot take British citizenship. Their loyalty is to Allah.
There are some conditions that can take you into the kufr, to take the British citizenship. Whether you like it or not, for these people you are selling your religion for. It's a very serious thing. It is not allowed to give allegiance to other than Allah.
And another preacher says Muslims shouldn't live in Britain at all.
It's not befitting for a Muslim that he should reside in the land of evil, the land of the kuffar, the land of the disbelievers. A Muslim should emigrate to a Muslim country.
A British school teacher and preacher. In this one, he attacks the Western idea that women can be independent from men.
The mental capacity of this society teaches you, I'm a woman in my own right. I can get my own job, I can get my own funding, I can get my own welfare, I can get my own flat, I can get my own home, I can get my own state benefit. I don't need you in my life. What is that? Deception of the devil.
And says men should control them.
Man is stronger than women, but men today don't know how to take care of their families. That's why their women walk loose, their women speak loose. And that's their evil society, that Muslim society has become like that today.
But in the private sessions, Salim criticizes Muslim women who do so.
Sacrifice are going to see Muslim in every sphere of the everyday life in this country. I see Muslims, it breaks my heart when I see them working in banks, short sleeves, sometimes this tight, scarf like this, makeup, you know, being with the kufa all the time, even speaking with the language.
She learns that this woman has a job in the health service.
No, is the job okay? The job that you are doing, does it involve anything haram or is it?
No.
No,
I
or
work
halal?
in pathology, hematology, just blood tests.
Just blood tests?
Yes.
And they don't allow you to wear jilbab?
Salim finds out that the woman can't wear a jilbab, a full Saudi-style Islamic covering, while at work. And she's working alongside men, which is forbidden by Saudi scholars.
Do you work only with females? No.
Salim says this is not acceptable.
You know that working in an environment that is not Islamic, working with the kuffar, all this takes you away from the deen and hardens your heart. And it will be lying to you if I say it's okay.
We asked Dr. Yarmani what she thought of